lap time sensitivity, where which corners give you the lap time.
Ja, vorne habe ich das reduziert, ne? Hast du reduziert? Ha? Hast du es reduziert? Nein, auch nur weglassen. Sounds quite prepared to eat. I think I would commit now to breakfast.
Oh, dry, I think.
Drivers, though, ready to head out onto the track for the first time today after free practice 3 was cancelled. It's been wet this morning. It is now dry. Suddenly, in the last sort of 20 minutes or so, James, it got really hot, really humid. So we're going to have a drying track, I would anticipate, for qualifying. There's a possibility if it stays dry, it could dry out before the end of it.
It will definitely dry out, I think, before the end of it. However, turn 1 in the braking area remains wet, and that is due to the fact there's a car park slightly above on the inside of turn 1 where the water is draining down, Tom, and it comes just underneath the barrier, and it will keep that braking area into turn 1, which we can see now, a little bit wet.
Yeah, we had that in free practice 1 earlier on this weekend. Let's remind you who the drivers are that will be out in Group A first of all. So Mitch Evans, championship leader for Jaguar. You've got Jake Dennis out there, who came so close to winning here this weekend. Da Costa, Muller, Buemi, Drugovic, Ericsson, Bird, Barnard, and also Norman Natto. They are your drivers who will be going on to the circuit out of pit lane in the not too distant future as the green flag flies then, and they're ready to head out onto the track. Now, it's interesting to see the sort of state of play. You can see there's a green flag on the pit lane here, but still a red light on at the exit of pit lane. So the timer is counting down from what we can see in our timing screen. Looks like just a technical problem there, which means the drivers are not quite able to head out onto the track at the moment.
That's quite bizarre.
Yeah, też everyone, just advise your drivers, we have an issue with the pit exit lights. Ignore the red light. Please ignore the red light at the pit exit.
Oh, so they can go.
There we are, confirmation that they can head out onto the track then. So we will see them filtering onto this wet and subsequently drying circuit. It's very hot and very humid here. Air temperature 29.2 degrees according to our sensors here in the commentary box. Track temperature though down at 32. If you consider that when we were doing qualifying in the dry yesterday, it was up at a peak of about 46, 47 degrees. It just goes to show you how much the weather has affected things this morning. But James, obviously no running in FP3, so no running on track here on Sunday. How does this affect things going into qualifying?
Well, luckily they had a lot of track time yesterday. The big difference is the conditions. They did have a little bit of damp running on Friday. However, this is totally unknown. Fresh start for everybody, fresh day, fresh conditions, and a huge challenge to go straight into a group phase like this with so much light that you have to be in the top 4. And the last person to cross the line and take that checker flag is most likely to be the fastest.
And yesterday in the race, obviously, we saw the likes of Mitch Evans, Oliver Rowland coming through from sort of lower down the field in that pit boost race, Billy. But if we're looking at the E-Prix this afternoon, obviously we've got a couple of fewer laps, down from 36 to 33 laps, but also we don't have pit boost. So I think making progress from that far down the grid is going to be even more difficult. So qualifying here has even more of an impact.
Yeah, definitely looking at the
Push. Cool double push, but I will keep you updated.
I think the critical thing for this session in qualifying, with a drying track, you need to get the tyre in the right window for the right time. So I think those cool laps, keeping the tyres at a cool temperature and not letting the surface get too overheated too soon into the session is going to be really critical. But going back to what we saw yesterday in terms of strategy for the race today, I think most of the overtakes were when drivers were in attack mode compared to drivers around them who weren't. So I think in terms of that pace differential, that's when you're going to be able to make real progress. I think if it's just on energy alone, unless you have a power cut like Jake Dennis did at the end of the race, I think it's going to be tricky.
Yeah, and two things to consider with this as well. As you say, if we've got rain in this session, in theory, because the track's drying, it should be a case of last time across the line because the conditions will be improving, and that's when we'll see the lap times coming in. But also, in the race as well, if it does then subsequently end up raining, the differential between a normal lap in 300 kilowatts and a 350 lap in attack mode, the difference is greater in terms of lap time. You can go from, say, a 2-second offset to sometimes a 5-second offset.
Yeah, 4-wheel drive is mega powerful in the wet, so huge advantage when you've got attack mode in those conditions. And in this group session, of course, they've only got the rear wheel drive, 300 kilowatts, so very challenging. And those that do advance are going to get to go out in the all-wheel drive 350 kilowatts.
I think that was the gamble that we saw with some of the strategies used by the likes of Dan Ticktum yesterday. He went early with his attack mode and his pit boost stop. But if the rain had come in that race, which we were expecting more so towards the end, he would have been at real disadvantage to the drivers that had saved attack mode. So he was fortunate in a regard that the rain didn't really fall. Because like you said, Tom, that advantage becomes so much more significant. So all these factors that teams and engineers have to take into consideration whilst out there.
Good to see Felipe Drugovich out on track in this session, by the way. If you were tuned in yesterday, you'll know that he had a crash, big crash in free practice 2 early in the afternoon. Subsequently didn't end up in qualifying. The team did an amazing job. They had a spare tub that they got from Spark with a chassis supplier in Formula E, and that was a completely bare tub, so they had to get all the wiring sorted. They managed to get it all built up literally as Felipe had to go to the grid. It was an incredible effort. He went from the back 20th place actually in the same time, qualifying to finish in 13th, which I have to say was a phenomenal job from both the driver and also the team to just get that car out in the session at all.
It was, the mechanics did an unbelievable job. I don't think I've ever seen it where a bare chassis has been built up so quick, so hats off to the Andretti team for that one.
And also for Nico Müller as well, he ended up having a shunt in qualifying. Porsche used the spare tub that they had, which was wired up, so it's a little bit less work for them to do, but again,
a lot less. Don't underestimate how much easier it is. If you've got all the wiring loom and all the brake-by wire, all these systems that Porsche had, that was basically plug and play.
Still, 90 seconds before the start of the race was confirmation that the car was compliant, so it was very impressive from the team to get that ready in time, given the difference of performance there. But let's have a look and see how things are going in qualifying so far. So at the 1 minute 20s, the difficulty is in terms of a reference point for lap time. But if we look at free practice 1, earlier on this afternoon, we're in the 1 minute 13.
That's naughty. You can't block like that. Bohemi's going to be pretty angry.
Yeah, that's telling us the Costa. No, I beg your pardon. It's actually Felipe Drugovich who's immediately in front of him there. So we'll wait and see whether the stewards will.
Now we expect the end of session to be properly dry or close to dry. So let's do prep laps now, 80% push more or less, and get the best tires possible for the end of session.
Yeah, and that's the end of the game, isn't it, really? As we say, it's going to be a case of last times across the line if the track conditions are going to continue to improve in the same vein. So we should expect to see the times tunnel, and it's again all about where you are on track, and crucially when you cross the line. If you're the first driver to cross the line as the checkered flag comes out, that will leave you vulnerable as the rest of the field then comes through.
It's very difficult conditions. I mean, to take the maximum risk possible in these conditions, not make a mistake, it's going to be so difficult when it comes to that final lap for the drivers to get everything out of their car.
The issue is as well, every driver's going to want the same piece of tarmac. They're all going to want to be the last one over line. Because like I say, when it's drying up, that's where the advantage is to be had. And this is a narrow, tight street circuit. Everyone wants the same piece of tarmac. It feels like a recipe for disaster where someone could easily clip the wall and then you don't get the lap time in. So I think crucially you need a banker lap within the last 2 minutes to go. If you're at the top of the time sheets, that's a safe place to be.
We're seeing the times dropping, Tom, right? So almost a second a lap.
Yeah. There's no surprise at all, there isn't really. And as we say, drivers are getting comfortable with the car. They're still fighting snaps of oversteer, in particular into the first corner, because as we saw in FP1, there's a lot of standing water as it runs off the car park behind the wall. And that's why that track isn't drying as quickly as other areas of it. Byrne goes over the line, P9 for now. Muller is in 4th place. Just to remind you as well, top 4
So keep pushing, important to keep pushing. We might be getting an extra lap here.
It's so interesting how the run plan then changes, doesn't it, from a traditional dry qualifying session. Sometimes we see them coming in, maybe siding the tyres, trying to keep those tyres as cool as possible. But here, it's a case of just going out and trying to set lap after lap after lap, as much as you possibly can, because you just never know. If you end up with a yellow flag later on in the session, if you've not got that bank of time on the board, then it could be vulnerable to not making the progress forward.
Or at this point, a red flag, because then they wouldn't restart the session. So
That was purple sector 1 when you set it, now 2.5 tenths off, 1.5 tenths to sector 2, 1 tenth sector 3.
Jacobs going 1 and 2 then with the Costa in 1st place. Evans just popped down to 3rd as Norman Knapp has made an improvement. Taylor Barnard also going up over there as well. The two Andretti's 3rd place with Dennis.
every car that crosses the line is going to the top 3.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Look at how fine the margins are, even despite the fact that we've got some mixed conditions out there on track. About 10th per second separating the drivers who are in the duels and those who are out of it at the moment. What about for Webby? Can he make any improvements? He's about to come over the line. That's his teammate there, Joel Eriksson, who's just up the road. Joel Eriksson this weekend.
The other thing that's super critical in these conditions is tyre pressures. Because you have low pressures in the dry and higher pressures in the wet. And finding the balance between it for the correct conditions and correct pressure is so difficult. Clearly Porsche have gone for a low pressure. They've got confidence in Nico Müller and they've told him that he can push every single lap, which suggests to me they've gone for the minimum pressure possible.
Yeah, also there's a balance there, isn't it? Because the more heat you put through the tyres, the more those temperatures start to increase. So it's that trade-off between getting those laps under your belt, finding your braking points, getting used to the track conditions and getting those bang lap times in, but then also risking the peak of the tyre going away from you if you cook those tyres too much before it gets down to crunch time.
Not much of a surprise to see Buemi and Dragovic under investigation, according to our timing screen here in the Province of Oxford. That's for impeding. We saw that down at turn 16. So minute and 30 left on the clock then. Some pensive faces inside the garages at the moment. All the drivers that are going to progress forwards. If you remember here yesterday, we saw Jake Dennis lining up on pole position for the 3rd time this season. Is it going to be the same story here today? Or are we going to see a different ending to things? Two visions. Lining up in 8th and 9th place at the moment. Eriksson over the line first, goes under to P6, so it's an improvement for him, but not quite enough to get forward into those top 4 places. His teammate Buemi, though, finding some good pace and going up to P3.
And they're on their final laps now. They're starting their final laps, so this is the one that counts for them right now.
And here's Jean-Eric Vergne launching his final lap. The team said just save it all for the final lap, so this should be Jev's mega win.
Right, down towards turn 1 we go then with Jean-Eric Vergne. Here's Nico Müller. Got himself through into the duels yesterday. Ended up shunting it, though, in the semi-finals in a big way, as we said. So qualified quite well up the order. Started, where was he? Fourth on the grid, yeah, so he did okay. But, as you can see, very different conditions some 24 hours later. Second place he is for now. Doesn't make an improvement, but will get one more lap if he's got enough energy left in both the tyre and in the battery to get things running. Where are the rest of the drivers? Who should be the first to check the flag? That's what I'm trying to work out at the moment. That's I think it'll be the cost of maybe Barnard, actually.
There's 4 drivers right now tracking to go faster than the best time we've got at the moment, which means all the 4 at the front are not safe.
Let's see whether Barnard can get another lap on the board then. Out of the final turn goes. He's got personal best in sector 1, fastest in sector 2, goes to the top of the table and will just sneak through by the skin of his teeth. So Dennis is going to be the first driver to cross the line. It's only P4 for him, and there's a plethora of personal best sector time. He's been knocked out by his teammate Felipe Dragovic 24 hours ago. Dragovic wasn't even in qualifying after his shunt, and now he's out as well as Buemi rockets his way up into 3rd place. Johnny Riverne, 10th fastest for him in the Citroen so far. Out of the final corner comes the Frenchman. Can he make an improvement? He can. He goes over to P3. At the moment, championship leader Mitch Evans is out of qualifying. Nico Müller, pressure then on the Swiss driver as he's making his way through that fast left-hander. Turn 16, very sideways, just about keeps it on the straight and narrow. But that's about as close of a warning as you're going to get. Müller exits out the final turn, comes across the line. Can he improve? He can. He goes up into second fastest. Evans on a flyer as well. Personal best in sector 2. He was fastest in the first sector. Needs it to get himself up with a chance of pole position. And he goes to the top of the pile by 7 thousandths of a second.
That's massive for Mitch Evans.
This is a case, as we said, of last time crossing the line. Are we going to see any more improvements? Nato P3. There he is. He's found some time. Now DaCosta goes up to the top of the pile. Pushes Nato onto the bubble. I don't think Barnard's going to improve. He's lost a bit of time in sector 3, but he's already done enough. So delight for Jaguar then. 1 and 2 for DaCosta and Evans. Barnard and Nato are the other two drivers who progress forwards. Nico Müller, who made it through into the duels yesterday, does not progress forwards, and both Andretti's out as well. Well, drama at the end of Group A qualifying then. Some big hitters, both Envisions, both of the Andretti's out.
Only 7 tenths, Tom, and you're 9th, Jake Dennis. I mean, what an unbelievable session.
I really just feel like sort of almost a hero to zero moment. Him and Andretti, they must be scratching out of their heads at where the pace has gone for both of the cars, 8th and 9th.
But we can see the circuit looks bone dry. I mean, really, the last bits of water must have really just evaporated on that last lap.
Is that a case of lacking the pace, or is it a case of just poor timing and poor stress?
Unlucky timing, I think, at some point, because they couldn't predict, the teams can't predict how the pace was going to evolve during the session. So you can start the session with all the best will and intent to be the last one to get to start the lap, but you have no idea how the lap times were going to be. So very, very difficult for the teams.
And once you've kind of made that decision of where you are on track, it takes a really brave call to then go, okay, well, we're going to slow right down for a few laps so that we do get to the line at the right sort of window. And they've obviously gone for the safer
This is
option.
the moment that cost Nico Müller getting through to the duels. Turn 16, you see he turns in, he just starts to lose the rear as he approaches the apex. Massive slide, he did so well to keep the car on the black stuff.
You can see the hallmarks on the outside there of people who've gotten it wrong this weekend. There you go, full opposite lock. And I imagine his heart would have been in his boots at that point, to be honest.
And he missed by less than half a tenth, he missed going through, so the Porsche team are going to be bitterly disappointed, and also Nico himself.
Wasn't the only moment he had looking at that one as well. That's coming out of 12, I believe, so he's had a little kick of oversteer on the exit there. Might have cost him a bit of a run down to 15.
Yeah, fair few drivers that will be disappointed with that one. None more so than the man who came within 2 corners of taking victory yesterday.
I'm sorry, that's just not good enough for me. Yeah, that's just bowled it.
He recognises that it was his mistake or his ability that cost him there, unfortunately.
And maybe he felt he didn't take enough risk.
We P5, sorry mate. We P5.
How proud am I? He's not pushing the line. I told you I wanted to be the last one.
So Verne there saying that he wanted to be the last driver to cross the line. Ultimately, he's out of qualifying here in Group A for the Citroen team. Group A qualifying then, all done and dusted. Felipe Drugovic out of qualifying. Likewise, Jake Dennis as well, the 2 Andretti's. We see the 2 Envisions not making the cut. We do, though, see the 2 Jaguars going through of DaCosta and Evans. We likewise have Taylor Barnard and Norman Nato into the duel as well. And crucially for Nico Müller, missing out by just half a tenth of a second. Such fine margins that we have here in Tokyo. Here are the drivers that will be out in Group B, though, momentarily. We know it's a drying track and a rapidly evolving circuit at that. So we'll have Pascal Wehrlein, former championship leader, alongside Oliver Rowland. The 2 Mahindras in there of Mortara and De Vries Cassidy, as well as the 2 Cooper Heroes of Marty and yesterday's race winner Dan Tixon, De Grassi and Maloney for Lola, as well as Max Günther. Green lights on at the end of pit lane then, as the 10 drivers heading out onto the circuit. Same, of course, as we saw in Group A. The top 4 will be moving forwards and into the dual stages. But we can see visibly just how much better the track looks from that overhead shot already at the start of Group B.
I've been listening to some radios. There's a massive difference in the drivers going into this session. You've got some drivers going out, like Mortara, out, push, push, cool, push, cool, push. You've got Cassidy going out with plenty of build laps, and then a push-pull push right at the end. So very different strategies being deployed by the various teams.
I think it's fair to say from the lap times we saw yesterday in dry 300.
So it's going to be outfield, push, push, cool push, cool push.
So this is definitely a much more conventional dry sort of session. We can see a few build laps, only 2 pushes in a row before you then need to start pulling the tyres. And I think that's because of the lap times. We're down 1:15.1 there, and the fastest we've seen in dry conditions was a mid 1:13 in this power mode. So only about a second and a half away. That really is in those first couple of corners where it stayed a little bit wet, but the rest of the circuit's dry, so you just can't afford to cook the tyres by doing 4 or 5 push laps in a row, which is what we saw in Group A.
Taylor Barnard out of the car into the dual stages of qualifying for DS Penske. Let's see what the young British driver is going to be able to do. Disappointed to finish P10 once all was said and done. Did make it through to the duels here yesterday afternoon as well. It's a good pace in the DS Penske so far this weekend, but ultimately the end of the race was what cost him. He was up about 5th place at the start of the final lap, but sort of just over-consumed on energy.
He was 2% down with about 10 laps to go. He left himself a pretty difficult task.
Interestingly, Mitch Evans overtook him on only a few laps to go, and he finished race 4th, so that really shows that energy deficiency, how much it cost him at the end.
Yeah, right, let's see what E-Prix can do there. It's the second of the Mahindras. Making his way through that first stage. The driver's now on these build laps. We just heard, of course, the team radio for Eduardo Mortara a few moments ago, and no instructions in the hokey-cokey there as he's going to try and get that car in the right operating window, doing all these build and pull and push laps and so on and so forth. Inside the Jaguar TCS Racing garage, both of their drivers going through, so that's good news for them. Sebastian Buemi, meanwhile.
That's how humid and hot it is. He looks rather sweaty.
Yeah, it's not pleasant to be sat there in the car, at least in the box as well, after the end of the session. Looks like they've got a fan and some air conditioning on him for Sebastian Buemi. But disappointment for that team not made it through to the there's a lot more emphasis on qualifying here for the E-Prix tonight. Over the timeline we go then. Here is Pascal Wehrlein. He failed to make it through into the duels here, so 24 hours ago. And let's be honest, his race was an absolute shock.
I have a big vibration on this tyre.
So Roland not happy with his tyres. He may come into the box then and change over to his second.
Not enough time.
You don't think so, no?
You won't be able to build the temperature with these conditions, I think, if you did that. However, your comment before, Pascal, yes, an absolute shocker yesterday.
Yeah, ended up picking up a penalty for his troubles as well after he had contact with Antonio Vinicius Costa in the race. He ended up retiring because the car was bent to the shape, then went back into the race. But he believe he served the penalty that he'd been awarded, essentially. So that kind of alleviates some headaches for him today, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think he goes into today with a clean slate. I think he just needs to approach this section and try and make it through into the dual stages. He wasn't able to do that yesterday, and that put him in that crunch zone in the midfield where you can get involved in those incidents, and he was right in the thick of it as a championship leader, or was a championship leader, and now he's all of a sudden he's got to change his mentality slightly because there's only a few points in it, but he's now the chaser. He's the one who needs to hunt down Mitch Evans.
But this is a critical session for Pascal Wehrlein and Porsche. With Mitch Evans getting through, they really need to get through to make sure that they're within a close points gap, and they have the best opportunity first of all for tonight's E-Prix, but they have a close gap going into the London E-Prix.
Yeah, look at this group that we've got here. We've got some fast runners out there. Mortara's been quick all weekend. Roland was probably a driver that struggled in qualifying yesterday, although he got a strong result in the end. And he's in the championship mix, so he's got a lot to do. But Pascal Wehrlein, De Vries, both of those Mahindras been quick all weekend. So it's not all said and done that the likes of Wehrlein is going to cruise through this group.
Like that ticked in Cassidy and Cassidy on the podium, ticked on won it yesterday. Just because that's the Formula E on one day doesn't necessarily replicate into the Sunday, however.
I mean, we've seen that with Jake Dennis, haven't we?
Yes, Jake Dennis pole yesterday, and it's going to start at 18th.
Massive Volpe then, just watching on quite patiently. Home race for Nissan, and they've got Ivan Espinosa, the CEO, alongside him. Big weekend for that team. You'll notice the car looking slightly different this weekend. I say slightly different, completely different colour scheme actually, because they're promoting the new Nissan Leaf Nismo here in Japan. So the car looking a lot more stealthy than it normally would. And a lot of support you'll see when they go past the South Straight in particular. There's a Nissan grandstand on the right-hand side, and we're looking at the left-hand side for Oliver Roland, and they're cheering them every single time that car comes past. Roland goes to the top of the pile there, about 2.5 tenths in front, but De Vries also making some improvements as well. Just a little bit of housekeeping, by the way, not out of this group, but is out in qualifying, which we saw in Group A, that Joel Eriksson has got a 3-place grid penalty for moving at the brake Martin in the race yesterday.
Oh, didn't have the pleasure of seeing that one.
No, well, it was a technical time when it was in something converted into a 3-place grid penalty. Didn't get a chance to serve it.
It's not doing much work. He was part of the replay there, wasn't he? So, yeah, not ideal, but obviously it is what it is for his overall performance. We're already down to the second lap time as we saw in group A, so the track is at that point still about just over a second away from in complete dry running where the drivers are at. So it feels like a rinse and repeat of what we saw in group A, where the last one over the line is going to make a big difference.
Cassidy out of the final corner, 10 fastest at the moment. This is a build lap, as you can see, but obviously needs to find a little bit of pace and performance in that car that hasn't really got a representative time on the board. The problem is, it's not like we can look back to free practice this morning because there wasn't any, so we don't have a particular reference point of the track conditions here today. But we know Cassidy is pretty good at making his way up through the order in racing conditions, but good qualifying will really help him out somewhat. I don't think there was a dry eye in the Citroen garage yesterday after that podium. Just Freeze goes to the top of the pile, which is with over 3 minutes remaining.
So someone who's struggled in qualifying most of the season, rookie Marty, is actually looking incredibly fast on this lap. Looks like he might even be able to snatch the top spot away from Nick de Vries.
See whether Marty could do the business again. He was out qualifying yesterday in the group stages, and Marty racing from the grid. Goes up to the top of the pile then. Lovely stuff for him. What about teammate Dan Tickton? Betters it by just 2,000 of a second. So it's a Cooper Hero 1-2 as it stands. And it's an opportunity not here for some of the teams that may be a bit less competitive in qualifying. But looking at the Lola Yamaha Apps cars, we've just seen Degrassi go up into 5th fastest. Maybe Maloney could spring a few surprises as well. This is Max Gunter, who's presumably going to run on down at turn 10 and 11.
He looked like he was saving a lot of speed into the braking turn there. I mean, maybe potentially just pushing his braking point a bit too late. It didn't look like he could really release the brake pedal to get the car rotated into the 10-11 there.
So Pascal Wehrlein then, 2 minutes left on the clock, and again you can see just how much that track has dried out even over the course of this session. In fact, it is both dry now at the final corner, but for a few patches of standing water off of the racing line.
Only 4 tenths covering the top 7, Tom. Nothing like a close session here in Formula E.
It's exactly what we love to see. Shake of the head there for Ollie Rowland as he exits out of the final corner. He knows that there's time left on the table and the pressure is on his shoulders. Had a difficult time in qualifying yesterday, both in this and difficult. As a matter of fact, Rowland was 15th on the grid. His teammate Norman Nato slightly better up in P11. We just saw Nato failing to make the cuts. Can Rowland do any better though?
And Wehrlein only up to 4th, so he doesn't look that fast at the moment. It's really crucial that he gets through into the duels.
So let's go push mode. This will be double push.
So 2 push laps to end the session then for Nick de Vries. Currently 3rd quickest. Just 4/100ths of a second slower than Dan Tickton at the moment, but a 10th of a second separating those top 4 drivers. And a 10th of a second meaning you've made the cut or you have failed to progress forwards. Wehrlein quite deep there into turn 15.
That was really wide. He did great first 2 sectors, was looking like he was going to go top, but yeah, small mistake 15. He's got 1 lap now to absolutely nail this group session.
Yeah, you can see he's backed off there, Billy. He's just trying to get himself as much track position, as much safety as he possibly can here, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and he's obviously got about 40 seconds left on the clock. So we've got Nick de Vries, we've also got Ollie Rowland, who will definitely get another lap. This is just a replay here of...
but as we saw in Group A, he's one of the first people to start his last lap.
Yeah, that's the point I was making. Definitely, like I say, de Vries, Rowland, and it looks like Mortara as well. They're all going to make it over the line to get a final lap. And Mortara's already about to go top of the timesheet, according to what you can see in the comment block.
We'll get another lap in here, Mortara as well. So let's wait and see how that works out for him. So he's now over here for 1-2. De Vries was fastest a few moments ago, but teammate Mortara
Keep pushing on to the next one. Yes.
Yeah, to be honest, the engineer didn't need to tell him that it's qualifying.
Yeah, he's aware of that one. Right, Maloney down in 10th fast. He's got personal best in sector 1. It's not going to be much trouble the top of the order at the moment. And given how close that margin was, it's now up to about half a second or so between 1st and 4th place. And you can see just over half a tenth of a second separating Marty and Gunter. So Marty at the moment would be making through as Gunter would not. Checker flag is out. Marty fails to improve then. So P4 will be the best that the Spanish driver can hope for. Can Tickton make an improvement? No, he can't. Stays P3 for now.
No one's going quick. No one's troubling the top of the time.
So has the track dried out sufficiently enough that they've now overheated those tyres on this final flyer?
It looks like it, yeah. Which could be an absolute disaster for Pascal Wehrlein. He's only 5th.
And Wehrlein fails to make the cut. exactly the same time as Pepe Marti, but because Marti said it earlier on in the session, he gets priority for that one, and Verline will not be going forwards to the duels for a second day in succession. Not what the man who formerly led the championship needs. Cassidy also failing to make it as well. Roland needs a big lap here. Has he left anything on the table? He has. He gets over to P4 right at the very end of the session, and a big sigh of relief for Tommaso Volpe, the CEO, directly on his right-hand side as we look at it. And well, he left it late, didn't he there, Oliver Roland, but ultimately the cream always rises to the top, and that was a stonking that time, just as he needed it, and it's a smile on the face of both the head men at the Nissan team this weekend.
Yeah, talk about a big difference for Nissan overnight. They've really turned things around in qualifying, and it felt like Oliver Roland, after everyone else's results yesterday, needed a performance. He's dropped down to 4th in the standings. He's got some work to do to really be a front runner for this championship going into London. He's done just that.
Can we just say how sorry I feel for the person in 8th, Max Günther, when he's half a tenth, or sorry, 1/10 away from making it in 8th. Yeah. 1/10 to make it into the top 4.
Yeah, how tight you want it to be, as you say. Just over a tenth of a second separating those drivers then. So Marti, Verline, Cassidy, Günther, Maloney and Di Grassi all fail to make it through here from Group B qualifying. We do see Mortara, De Vries, Ticktum and Ollie Roland moving forward. For Verline,
Yeah, basically approved.
Terrible. Yeah, just not the grip. And I have a strange noise from the rear since the beginning.
It's a difficult session for both Porsches not making it through. It's interesting as well, isn't it? Because I've got to be honest, he didn't look comfortable with that car throughout a lot of that session that we saw.
Yeah, we saw a few moments for him down at 15. We saw him go a little bit deep. I think this is exactly that replay there. You can see him just missing the apex, going in a bit deep. And the big winner out of this for me in this championship fight is Mitch Evans. He is cruised through in Group A, as we see Pascal's on board there at that moment in 15. And this is a big moment in the championship for Mitch Evans. He obviously got that championship lead back yesterday, and he's now through into the dual stages at a track where we think overtaking is going to be tricky.
Well, let's see confirmation of the Group B order then. So Mortara and De Vries, the two Mahindras, go forwards. Likewise, yesterday's race winner Dan Ticktum and former world champion Oliver Roland down in P4, just by the skin of his teeth, ahead of Pepe Marti. Pascal Verline, Nick Cassidy, Max Günther, Zane Maloney and Lucas Di Grassi will go no further here this afternoon for round 15 in Tokyo, and that's big disappointment for Pascal Verline. He's now trailing in at the championship by 3 points over Mitch Evans. Needed a big result, needed an opportunity to equalise with him on points here ahead of the E-Prix tonight. Sadly, it has not come to fruition. Well, the fans watching on in the grandstands, thankfully the rain has stayed away for the rest of this afternoon after an absolute deluge early. We all had to evacuate from the paddock due to a storm that encroached very quickly. And as you can see, the sun is now out, the track is now dry.
More details on the noise of the rear. Is this drivetrain or touching or?
I don't know if it's drivetrain or diff or something, the gearbox, but there's like a noise which is louder.
So Verline, as we saw, not happy with the balance of the car, but possibly a technical problem hindering the pace that may have been hidden in that Porsche. Makes his way down towards the FIA weighbridge then, and a lot of debriefing to go on for both the Porsche drivers as Müller and Verline out of the group stage of qualifying. So we're looking here then at an onboard side-by-side between Da Costa and Mortara. So Group A for Da Costa, Group B for Eder Mortara. You can see visibly here, James, just how different the circuit conditions are.
Yeah, you can see Da Costa, it brakes so late into turn 1, almost losing it. But yeah, lots of damp patches for him to navigate. Very tricky conditions. Mortara almost completely bone dry circuit.
Well, dual stages of qualifying and the quarterfinals along the way in the not too distant future here in Tokyo. Really excited to see what will happen.
number 3. 94. 94.
When the track's running up, 8-9 cents a lap, and you're the best out to get it, you're also left it. Yeah, it's like mismanaged, but
the championship is critical ability to the duel. So for this race today, let's talk about Group B. Fantastic session. Super. Elephant charge. Yeah, that was a huge session for that. That session was a bit more complicated. It wasn't a case that the last one off the line was going to go past it. As they mentioned in commentary, it was actually like the time. As you can feel it, it's really hot again. The tarmac feels hot, it's very dry. So then it was a case that actually maybe the time that overdone it, we're not going to get it in that last lap. But that was huge also stuff all the way to the E-Prix. Because maybe it was really improving that outside the half hit. So that's also great for this half. They have both of their drivers. Not so great, this driving for Rollins this weekend, leader of Sterling, Pascal Bell, didn't get through the duels yesterday. The triumph from the race, and unfortunately,
Thank you very much indeed, Nicky. Very excited to see how this one is going to break down then. So Taylor Barnard for DS Penske versus Jaguar's Mitch Evans. We go from 300 to 350 kilowatts in the dual stages of qualifying and into all-wheel drive as well. And unlike the session we saw of 10 minutes a few moments ago, drivers get one out lap, one flying lap, and that is your lot. So you make a mistake on your flying lap, then, well, remains to be seen as to whether you'll be progressing forward from that stage. We've got the quarterfinals up first, so 4 quarters, 2 semis, and then of course 1 final to decide the front row of the grid, but also crucially who will bag those 3 points. The man who we're riding aboard with, Mitch Evans, took the lead of the championship over Pascal Wehrlein by 3 points yesterday, and really loves to extend that advantage going into the E-Prix.
Did he do a wheel spin whilst he was still in the pit lane?
Yeah, I was going to say that's against the regulations, isn't it? It is. I mean, look at Pascal Wehrlein at the start of the year back in Sao Paulo. We saw that, didn't we? Where he wheel spun away from pit lane. And he was then demoted from pole position as a result of that. So wait and see if any investigations come up. But obviously he was just trying to get as much heat into the tyres.
I hope he drove slowly across the line and ended it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But no, this is going to be a great quarter-final. Taylor Barnard super fast on 1 lap in that DS Penske, but Mitch Evans, championship leader, he really wants to get a pole position today. He wants to extend that lead.
Certainly does. Right, let's see how this one is going to work out then. So we have now got pretty much a bone dry track, but for down at the first corner, as we expected to see. A bit of standing water there on the exit of the right hand, and just coming through towards the final sector of the lap as we head in towards turn 15. But otherwise,
the interesting thing, turn 1 is going to be super treacherous for all of these drivers. They're going to ride faster because they're now 350 kilowatts all-wheel drive. They're going to get much better exit out of this final corner. They're going to ride faster. It's still damp. It's still wet. Hopefully they will survive.
Well, let's wait and see how this works out then. So Taylor Barnard out of the final turn. He'll come across the timing line for the DS Penske team then. Lined up 5th on the grid here 24 hours ago. Lays on the brakes. Did he get it stopped? He's very, very deep into there. Just about, I think, managed to grimace his way through turns 1 and 2. I don't think it was quite the optimum line through there, though.
No, definitely on the limit there, Taylor, with the braking.
See what we get, though, for DeCosta. Oh, he's even, Mitch Evans, rather, beg your pardon, he was even deeper into there, just fighting the car on the entry into there. So that might be a saving grace for Taylor Barnard. As Mitch Evans, as we say, just trying to get that car rotated around and navigate his way through the first sector. So the first sector time, we're reckoning in around from the mid to high 30 seconds or so, there and thereabouts. The advantage in the first sector looks to be the way of Taylor Barnard here, Billy.
Yeah, he's about 3 tenths up through the first part of the lap, Taylor Barnard, so a strong start to the lap. They're still quite a chunk down where we saw in this 350 kilowatt mode yesterday when it was completely dry. They're losing about a second of lap time in the first part of the lap because of the weather conditions.
Mitchell's super close to the walls there through 10 and 11. He's really trying to make up the difference a bit.
Yeah, he's catching a bit of time here in this second sector, but the problem is he lost so much in that first sector, 3 tenths of a second. I wonder if it's going to all be in vain, because he'll know that it's just chasing his tail, sort of fighting against the tide, as it were. Through to the final couple of corners we go with Taylor Barnard and Mitch Evans, and Barnard has increased that gap out further still as we come through the final turn and across the timing line, and Taylor Barnard does out-qualify championship leader Mitch Evans, so the DS Penske driver will go through into the semi-finals. Phil Charles there looking as animated as ever inside the DS Penske garage, but for Mitch Evans, a missed opportunity, I feel.
Definitely, yeah, and you can see him locking the rears going to turn 1. It was so difficult for him to get it right. Taylor was a little bit out of control going to turn 1, but he kept it in line, a little bit of front locking, looked much more stable.
Yeah, certainly did. I mean, 3 tenths of his advantage just there alone. Then we go through 10-11 here with Mitch, leaving maybe a little bit more room than we've seen with some of the other drivers. We've seen drivers clip that barrier at points, but I think the damage was done at the start of that for Mitch there.
Quarterfinal 2 then, Norman Nato in the Nissan, Antonio Felix da Costa in the Jaguar. Let's see how this one will go down then. Good to see both Nissans into the duels for the first time, believe it or not, since Madrid. Long time ago now. But for Antonio Felix da Costa, a good opportunity for him in the sister Jaguar to put right the wrongs of his teammate. Nice and easy though into the first corner there for Norman Nato. A lot less dramatic than we saw from Barnard and Evans a couple of moments ago.
That did look very clean into turn 1.
Costa, bottom right-hand corner of the picture as it stands for now. Let's see whether he can get that car rotating quite nicely. And does so. A lot less wayward than his teammate in quarter-final 1.
Possibly some good information coming from the engineers inside the team.
Slightly slower in the first sector though here, compared to Taylor Barnard and Mitch Evans. About a tenth of a second or so left on the table. It doesn't necessarily matter too much as long as it's faster than the immediate driver, which it looks like Da Costa has got it all together in that first sector, and he has been a super second quicker.
Yeah, he's definitely the fastest that we've seen through there so far, so it's a strong start to the lap for Da Costa. He managed to navigate 15 well there, Norman Nato. Looked like a clean exit. Middle sector looks pretty strong from what we saw in the first quarter-final, so I feel like he's building his way into this lap. A little bit of a wobble there through 16 though.
Yeah, just gets it all gathered up as Norman Nato.
Scrappy into the lap, I think there.
Yeah,
16, 17, 18.
And he's already chasing his tail at this point, despite the fact he was quicker in that second sector than Antonio Felix da Costa. So 10.5 of the second was the time that separated the two of them there, but has Da Costa done enough then here, because he was slightly slower in sector 2, but the final corner looking a little bit cleaner. The gap is very close between the two. Over the line we go, and Da Costa did build out an advantage in that final sector, and he goes through into the semi-finals then. And Norman Nato will go no further than quarter-final 1 here for Nissan. Grazie Volpe just watching on. Likewise, Dan Espinos there as well, the CEO of the Nissan company. huge weekend for them here, but yeah, just tidier lap times from the two of them really, compared to the sort of waywardness that we saw in the first of the quarterfinals.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it still looked very treacherous going down into turn 1, but certainly Antonio looked like he had it well under control.
Anything you can pick out there with the sort of difference in driving styles and lines, Billy?
I think it was all done in the first sector. That 2/10 advantage just stayed there. I think it's interesting, that part of the lap is definitely the wettest part. They're losing about 8 tenths there to what we saw in the final parts of the qualifying yesterday when it was dry conditions, and there's a little bit in the middle sector too. The final sector is the driest of the lot, it looks like, according to the sector times.
Quarterfinal 3 then, Dan Ticktum versus Nick de Vries. Ticktum really pushing on his outlap there as he comes down to the first corner. We know how good he is on a one-lapper and how much he can get out of the car. We saw it, of course, yesterday in the E-Prix as well. He took the lead at the final couple of corners on the final lap. He's riding a crest of a wave of confidence, and of course he's chasing a drive in Formula E for season 13 and beyond into the Gen 4 era. And out qualifying Nick de Vries, getting through into the next stage of the session would do him no harm at all. The Mahindra though has got pace in it as well, so it'll be interesting to see who's got the advantages in the first couple of parts of this lap.
I think Dan could have probably hoped for a slightly stronger start to his lap. I think something that we talked about a lot in qualifying yesterday was tyre temperatures getting into the right window for the first sector. The fact that that first sector is wet again today, or wetter than it was yesterday, I think it's even more important. I think we're seeing some drivers get that right, some not so much, but Dan Ticktum has actually pulled that back in the middle sector. That's the fastest we've seen so far.
Yeah, not the best first sector we saw from Dan Ticktum, subsequently not the best either. Whoa! Big snap of oversteer through turn 16 for the British driver. Just about gathered it up. Not the first time we've had a warning sign there this weekend. Out of the final corner we go for Ticktum over the line. It's a 1:12.873, so the quickest time we've seen so far in qualifying. De Vries lost half a second or so in this second sector and through to the third sector as well. He's catching him slightly as he comes to the line, but ultimately it's not enough to pose Dan Ticktum, and the Cooper Kiro driver does move forwards into the second of the semi-finals.
I'm going to say 16 is a real talking point this weekend because we've seen drivers get it wrong, but you've got to take risk there because rolling that minimum speed is where the lap time was. So as much as Dan's had a stat there, I think actually performance-wise he's carried so much speed through the corner, it seems worth the trade-off for having a bit of a wobble.
Oh, I think he was a bit over the limit there, but yeah, his final sector was still the best one we've seen so far. But brilliant driving from Dan. We know that he's so fast over one lap. He's so good at rotating the car, getting everything done in the right moment. Mega lap from him.
Quarterfinal 4 then, Oliver Rowland versus Eduardo Mortara. Rowland just making it through from the group stages by the skin of his teeth, and you have to say really the momentum surely has got to be with Eduardo Mortara, just in terms of the pace we've seen from him so far this weekend, Billy.
He's topped every session apart from the final yesterday where he just snapped to Jack Dennis because of a mistake down at 15, so I think he's been the man on form all weekend. He's topped, like I said, every single session.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Billy, but yeah, just gets it very sideways down into turn 1, and now he's going to have to hope for a mistake from Mortara's lap here as well, just try and gather it all back up.
I think this is going to be really interesting if we heard any team radio here with Mortara and his engineer, because is that going to be communicated or is it too late? You need to let the driver concentrate, don't you, James?
You've got to have absolute faith in your driver at that point, Billy. The engineer just can't say anything, you've just got to let him go.
And you can see it's cost him about 8 tenths of a second, that mistake, Oliver Rowland, from the fastest we've seen him. You can see Mortara potentially even taking that first sector up to the next level, so that could be game over right there.
Ollie Rowland, he'll do his best for the remainder of this lap, but again he needs to hope that Mortara makes some kind of a mistake on this final. Mortara in turn having a big snap of oversteer himself through turn 9. You can see him on the bottom right hand corner of your screen. He's just about to thread the eye of a needle through turns 10 and 11, so he's not leaving anything on the table here. Here's Edo at the moment. He probably isn't aware that Rowland has had that incident down at the first turn where he went very deep. And Rowland then is just going to come through to complete this one and only flying lap, but there's not going to be anything to write home about. 1:13.848 for him. Here's Mortara, a couple of corners now left. Threads it through turn 16 very nicely, gets the apex hooked up very well. If nothing else, this is a good dress rehearsal for the semi-finals where he is going to go head-to-head with Dan Ticktum as he absolutely trounces Oliver Rowland then. 1.2 seconds to the good for the Mahindra driver. So disappointment with De Vries missing out to Dan Ticktum, but delight there on the other side for Eduardo Mortara as he will move forwards with the quickest time that we saw in the quarterfinals, a 1:12.641.
He's such a great qualifier, Mortara. He's been so strong all year here in the Mahindra team.
Yeah, well, he's like a fine wine, as I said about on commentary over the course of the year. He just seems to get better with age, doesn't he? He's 39 years old now. is Edo. This is a city that once bore his name in Tokyo, and well, he's performing very nicely indeed so far in that Mahindra.
He's been driving well all weekend. He's just been so confident with the car around a narrow, tight, twisty street circuit that we've got here. You need confidence, and I think, to be honest, that confidence of the result yesterday for Dan Ticktum is clearly transferred to him today as well.
That's going to be P8. That's going to be P8. Once again, we'll score good points this afternoon, then. Come on, let's go.
What do you think that was there, Billy? Do you think it's just a case of too late on the brakes and the rear tyres couldn't cope?
Yeah, it just looked like the rear got away from him in the braking zone there, and he's obviously trying to roll speed. It's tricky down there. It's completely different conditions. They're losing 8 tenths in the first sector to what we saw in dry qualifying yesterday, and that's pretty much where all the lap time is. The second sector onwards, it's completely bone dry.
The only thing I will say is that when you're in this phase of qualifying, you have more ability to, or the teams have more ability to utilise the anti-braking system or anti-locking braking systems through the controls, and that clearly is not as well refined in Roland's car as it is in Mortara's car.
Edo Mortara into the FIA weighbridge as the fans watching on, thankfully not under umbrella coverage so far this weekend, which is good news. It's been a constant feature throughout this last couple of days here in Tokyo. Let's get confirmation of the quarterfinals then. So Evans out qualifying, Barnard out qualifying Mitch Evans on the championship leader. Nato being done over by Da Costa. Then you've got Ticktum who got the better of Nick de Vries, and Roland, who we saw making that mistake a few moments ago against Eduardo Mortara, means that the upshot is in the semi-finals we'll have Taylor Barnard versus Antonio Da Costa and Dan Ticktum versus Eduardo Mortara.
Just looking at what we're going to have for the grid, that fourth row, Roland and Evans going to be alongside each other. They basically followed each other through from the back of the field yesterday in the race, took the same sort of strategy and managed to get into the points. So
It's quiet, but when I'm behind my back. What else to do, to be honest?
Glad got the beat machine on that one there, because he's not a happy man, is Oliver Roland. 24 points the deficit he has in the championship over Mitch Evans. As you quite rightly said, Billy, he's going to be lining up together on the grid there as well. So yeah, that'll be nice and spicy going down into towards that first corner, I think.
Yeah, they both have the same strategy, the same approach. It worked for both Mitch and Oliver. They made a lot of progress from where they lined up for the race yesterday, and they're both right up there in the championship, where their rivals, obviously Pascal Wehrlein, he's had a bit of a disaster. You've got Mitch Evans then as well, who's going to be him and Roland. Are they going to take risks with one another, James, do you think, in the race, starting alongside each other when they're fighting for a championship?
No, I think they'll probably have a chance to do the opposite. I think they'll take no risk together. But how exciting for us that Antonio Costa and Edo Mortara, who are still in the hunt for this championship, are in the semi-final.
And it does feel like with those two in particular, James, they need to probably secure a podium at least today to really put themselves firmly in contention.
They do indeed. I mean, we can see now the top three in the championship, but the challengers are the ones that I'm most excited to see.
Reminder of the Drivers' Championship then, going into this final race of Tokyo. 3 races left to run in 2026, all to play for up the sharp end for Oliver Roland. Can he start seeing that sort of slipping away through his fingers? 24 points away. Sound like a lot. I know we've got a couple of races to go in London, but it's a tall order to come back from that.
Well, he struggled actually last year when he did win a championship, closing it.
You know, you are the quickest sector 1, sector 3. Sector 2 you are the second best, but you already know why. It's because of T9.
Well, if ever there was a man who needed a boost of confidence, it's probably not Eduardo Mortara, given his pace of performance that we've seen so far this weekend. But nonetheless, I mean, it's good to know where you are strong, isn't it?
It's no short order going up against Dan Ticktum in a qualifying session, though. So I think that is going to be a mega exciting.
Very good point indeed. Right, there is Eduardo Mortara, ready to go out in the second of the semi-finals in a couple of moments. So the semi-finals along the way next. Taylor Barnard for DS Penske versus Antonio Da Costa in the Jaguar, Dan Ticktum for Cupra Kiro, and Edo Mortara in the Mahindra then. So you can see how he got here from the quarterfinals into the semi-finals. You've got Dan Ticktum, who's fighting for a drive going into the Gen 4 era. Likewise also, actually, for that matter, Norman Nato. His seat is not secure at the Nissan team into the Gen 4 era and beyond. So we'll wait and see how that works out. Either way, we'll focus on the here and now. And semi-final one up first, Taylor Barnard and Antonio Da Costa. How's this one going to go down then? terms of the quarter-final times, Taylor Barnard a 1 minute 13.282, Da Costa a 1 minute 13.144, so slightly better for the Jag driver.
Better conditions,
Very true.
It was interesting when we heard that team radio of Eduardo Mortara and his engineer talking about where he was struggling. One corner on a track turn 9, that was actually in practice yesterday where he clipped the wall and got a little bit of damage. So it seems like maybe he's just lost a little bit of confidence to really carry the speed through that.
It's interesting as well because both these drivers have qualified very well here so far this weekend in Tokyo. Yesterday, Da Costa third on the grid, Barnard up in the top 5. So they're just continuing that performance, continuing that pace that we've seen from both of them this weekend. It's not like it's a fluke and a one-off, and so often we have seen that in Formula E. I mean, the Andretti's being a prime example of that, in particular with Jake Dennis' pole position yesterday. Didn't even make it out of the groups here. So.
Yeah, that's the normal chop and change that we get in Formula E from race to race, even at the same circuit under similar conditions. But yeah, it just feels like if you're Taylor Barnard, if you're Dan Tickton, if you're Eduardo Mortara, they're drivers that seem to have a decent package in all conditions over one lap, particularly in full attack mode as well.
Reminder that Antonio Da Costa yet to take a pole position in the Gen 3 era. Last time was at Seoul in 2022. Last time we saw Taylor Barnard on pole position was Monaco last year, actually, as a matter of fact, as well. So it's been a long time coming for him. I know I'm getting ahead of myself because it's only the first of the semi-finals, but one of these drivers is going to be in that fight. So down in towards turn 16 we go. This is where we saw Pascal Wehrlein making a bit of a meal of it in the group stages, struggling with the balance of his car. Barnard just getting things warmed up and in the right operating window. Of course, up into 350 kilowatts of power. You see the blue lights now illuminating the DS Penske. He comes through the final corner and he'll fire himself onto the start-finish line to begin his flying lap. It's down to the first corner where we know the mistakes can really be punished. Let's see how he gets it all rotated, and he gets it very sideways. Misses the apex by a country mile, and he's already on the back foot, and we're not even 3 corners old. Here's Da Costa, can he get it rotated better? And again, he's slightly deep there as well, as a matter of fact. Right, we slowed the 2 laps down then, so we're now side by side. Barnard here on the left, Da Costa on the right. And, well, they both made mistakes in turn 1, so is it even Stevens from this point on?
Yep, at the moment you've got to say that they both made the same mistake. They were really on the limit braking that late into turn 1.
Yeah, they have a bit of a difference of line compared to one lap in turn 4 as well. It looked like Da Costa was struggling to get the front of the car rotated, understeered a little bit past the apex, where Taylor was able to keep it a lot tighter. And look at the margins there, 700. This is tough.
Step down towards turns 10 and 11 we go. There's a thread the eye of a needle through there. So tight it is. Again, we are looking.
Da Costa looked great through there, especially into 12.
So in towards turn 15 we go, and again, Da Costa's car, the front end just looked really nice and compliant. He's able to hook it onto the apex so well. Built out advantage here in the second sector, up to nearly a 10th and a half of a second. Barnard not doing a bad job out there on track, but just doesn't seem to have the same level of confidence and pace underneath him relative to Da Costa. He has built out, or brought back the gap a little bit in his favour as they head to the line though, but Da Costa has still done enough. 1.5 tenths or so in his pocket, and he will move forward into the fight for the front row here in Tokyo.
What's interesting for me is his time was still slower than Ticktum and Mortara's from the quarterfinals.
It feels like the potential pole sitter is going to come from this second semi-final based on the performance that we see in the quarter-final, semi-finals, and from Mortara across the entire weekend.
I have to be honest, thinking selfishly, I'd love to have seen a Ticktum Mortara fight for pole position.
Well, we're going to get it now.
We're going to get a duel in it, so it's going to be a semi-final.
From what Billy said, he reckons whichever one of these 2 wins will win the final.
I'll put my neck on the line, James. I'll go for that.
Hey now, I like it. I'm quite happy to sit on the fence and get some splinters. Right, semi-final 2 then, Dan Ticktum for Cooper Kiro and Eduardo Mortara for Mahindra then. So Mortara has been on pole position multiple times this season. And it is 3 pole position, you're absolutely right, and a front row start of course here yesterday as well. Dan Ticktum also had a couple of pole positions for the Cooper Kiro team then as well. Out of the final corner we go for Dan Ticktum. We know he absolutely blitzed it down into turn 1. Has a snap of oversteer though, but I think he just about got away with that.
It feels like every driver has the exact same moment of oversteer into turn 1. I think at this point that's just down to the way they've got to send speed in. Maybe a little bit deep into 4 there, a slight difference of line. Mortara's at the moment though.
That was a much bigger mistake for Mortara. I think Dan should be a little bit ahead when we get to the end of sector 1.
Well, Dan's leaving nothing on the table. You can see that car bucking and weaving and moving around all over the place, and he's trying to fight for some traction on the exit there. First sector, 30.6. Again, not the quickest we've seen, but look at how much it is hauling his way around turn 9. The car fully on the opposite lock through there. Mortara actually slightly quicker in that first sector by 0.2 of a second, so he's managed to gather it all up through the next series of corners, just been a bit tinier presumably, and built out an advantage over the British driver.
Yeah, it wasn't the best first sector we'd seen from Dan, so it looked on the limit, but maybe it's slightly too over the limit. Mortara in the second and third parts of the lap, I feel like this is where he really excels, so I'd expect this gap to come. Oh, actually, it's gone the other way. Tictum's brought it back. That's a surprise.
Under a 10th of a second now separating Mortara and Tictum. This one's going to be too close to call. Out of the final corner we go for Tictum. He hits the wall. Did he? Surely on the exit of the final turn. Over the line he goes with a 1:12.810. Eno Mortara then trying to respond. 700ths of a second in it, and surely Mortara, if he gets a cleaner run out of the final corner, will take that advantage, and he does. He goes through into the final for Mahindra to challenge for his 4th pole position of the 2026 season. And well, that was an absolute delight to witness here in the commentary box, and great to watch two of their drivers at the very, very best. But I have to say, Dan Tictum just looked a little bit more ragged on that lap, I think.
Definitely more on the edge, wasn't it, James?
Very enjoyable for us all to watch. I hope everyone at home enjoyed that one as such, but yeah, Dan looking like he's a little bit over the limit of what his tyres were willing to give him in terms of adhesion there.
Let's have a look at some super slow-mos here from Eno Mortara. He actually was slightly quicker in that first corner. Look at how close he was to the wall on the run from 2 into turn 3.
Yeah, talk about using all the road on entry. There was not a millimetre spare, and I actually think coming into 4 there, where he just saw the shot end, that was for me in the first sector where the lap time was gained, and Dan clattered the inside. I said the inside of 7 and 8 there. It looked like the car was bouncing all over the place.
Yeah, I'd love to see an onboard of that, because we sort of caught the back end of it, but like you said, the car just didn't look as compliant. And I think you just started to overdrive from that point onwards. Again, you're chasing your tail, trying to fight your way back through those mistakes. This is the final corner. He did hit the wall on the outside of the final turn.
And he's shaking his head. He already knew it was a scrappy lap. But it's great to see him fight for it.
It's turn 1 again, man. I braked so early, and just any demand when it gets wet, just so bad.
Frustration for Dan Tictum. It's going to be a start on the second row of the grid though, so he can take some solace from that. He's still in a good position going into the E-Prix tonight, and well, if you look at where he was yesterday on the grid, he was P6 and he came through to win.
And he's going to start P3.
There we go. So
not bad at all.
No, 3rd place, and crucially that's actually going to be on the racing on the clean side of the grid, so depending on if it's a wet track or a drying track or a drying circuit even for that matter, that could prove to be relatively beneficial. Let's remind you how we got through to the lineup for the finals then. So the quarters, we saw Barnard outpacing Evans, Da Costa outpacing Nato, Tictum outpacing De Vries, and Mortara outpacing Ollie Rowland. Semi-finals, Da Costa got the better of Barnard and Mortara got the better of Dan Tictum. And the upshot is, for the finals then, for round 15 here in Tokyo, it will be Antonio Vince Da Costa who's chasing his 1st pole position in Gen 3, and Mortara chasing his 4th pole position of the season. That's along the way next.
Yes, my way, the finals. Oh, nice. P1 was a bit nice one. 10th and a half to Barnard. Well done, mate. Well done. Yeah, turn 1 looked tricky for Barnard as well. Everyone commenting the same thing.
Good. If I've got much printed. Out yet.
Thanks KT, thank you to Nikki as well. Right then, time for the final for round 15 here in Tokyo. Antonio Felix da Costa versus Eduardo Mortara. Finally, we will see Porsche Powertrain's run of 7 straight poles ending this afternoon. Will it be a Jaguar or will it be a Mahindra? In terms of the Teams Championship, Mahindra have got a good chance to close down the gap of 13 points now to Andretti if they bang it on pole position with Eduardo Mortara. And with Jaguar, they are currently sitting 20 points ahead of Porsche in the Teams Championship, so they can extend that, of course, up to 23. The momentum you would imagine is with Edo Mortara, given the pace that we saw from him in the semi-finals. He still made a mistake on that lap that we saw against Dan Tickton, but he was ultimately about 0.3 seconds faster than the British driver.
Going to need some Portuguese magic if he's going to snatch pole position away from Edo Mortara.
I think you're absolutely right. Pensive faces there down in the Mahindra garage, and Prepper Dron just in the background of your picture there in the white shirt, team principal watching on.
How good is this head-to-head format?
It's great. I absolutely love the dual format. You just get so much drama, and you never really know which way it's going to go. One of those mistakes, just a tiny little error, those sort of thousandths of a second of what really makes this.
Well, that's exactly what happened to Eduardo Mortara yesterday. He was top of every single session, quarterfinals, semi-finals, he was the fastest man to beat. And then in the final, he just didn't put the lap together, and Jason Perez managed to pip him. So he's going to have a bit between his teeth, because he won't want a repeat of what happened yesterday. He'll want that pole position, he'll want those 3 points.
So, weaving around, trying to get heat into the tyres here for Antonio Felix da Costa, getting everything into the right operating window is the name of the game. Track conditions improving, of course, all the time here after the rain this morning.
Just seeing the championship standings, these two are actually tied on points as it stands, so one's going to go above the other, whichever way this pole position goes, so that's a factor that they might be having in the back of their mind too.
Yeah, great spot moving down to turn 1 then for Antonio Felix da Costa, sideways, very deep indeed, down at turn 1. The question is, has Mortara got it hooked up better than that? So you'd imagine if it goes the way of Edo Mortara, he'll have made a better run of things into the first corner, and he has done. Hooks up that apex so much nicer through there, and already through the first couple of corners he'll have about 3 or 4 tenths in his pocket.
Massive advantage there for Edo. He really nailed that one, having got it wrong in the semi-finals. But no, he looks super tight. He's super in control of that Mahindra. All the systems doing their job. It looks really good for this.
Left-hander of turn 6 and then turn 7 through towards the right-hander of turn 9. Nearly half a second. In fact, the advantage is even greater than I thought it might be between the two of them. Mortara still pushing on, but Costa leaving nothing on the table in the hope that Mortara makes a mistake on this lap as they make their way through that tight chicane of 10 and 11. Such a joy to watch these two drivers fighting it out for position. Then down towards turn 15 again. Mortara's car just looks so good, and ultimately that mistake from da Costa has cost him very dearly. Ended up in the wall in the race yesterday after contact with Pascal Wehrlein. Had an opportunity to bang his first pole position in the Gen 3 era, but sadly it's not going to go the way of him. It will go the way of Eduardo Mortara. It's 4 pole positions in 2026 for the Swiss driver for Mahindra as he bags pole and 3 points, qualifying the Portuguese driver Antonio Felix da Costa by 6 tenths of a second. Smiles all round in the Mahindra garage then, as they will line up at the head of the field for a 33-lap E-Prix tonight.
What a lap, incredible. I mean, a lot of that advantage came in the first sector where he made that mistake in the semi-final, but he was not going to let anyone else other than himself get pole especially after losing out in the final to Jake Dennis yesterday.
Is that the biggest pole margin we've seen?
It's got to be
this
right
season?
up there.
It's definitely up there, yeah.
That's massive. So, over 6 tenths. What an amazing job from Edo Mortara.
Yeah, that's superb, as you say, from Eduardo Mortara. Just this mistake late on the brakes. We've seen so many drivers just getting it very sideways into there. We heard Dan Tinkham on the radio earlier, as a matter of fact, saying he braked so early, but there's just nothing he could do to get that car stopped. And clearly Da Costa's suffering similar problems.
What's interesting for me is that Mortara found 3 tenths faster than anyone else has done this entire session in Sector 1 alone. So he really perfected that turn 1 and got it absolutely spot on.
4 pole positions for Eduardo Mortara, and I also make that his first pole position here in Tokyo. He's lined up on the front row on 2 previous occasions. One was yesterday, the other was
All good.
2025.
What a mate. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, I thought it was a good job. Yeah, it looked good. I thought it was. Didn't outbrake myself by 10 meters like in turn 1, like it's in the semis. Yeah, good job.
Well, he thought it looked good, and for the man who's in the city that once bore his name, Edo, he's on pole position here for the E-Prix tonight. The FIA Weybridge then for Mortara, for Mahindra, and we'll be hearing from him after that Julius Baer pole position trophy.
Well done though. Yeah, he's 6.5.
Also, we could have done better with the tires, man, in that waiting time. And he had the duel after me, so his tires were a lot warmer. Wow.
It's a very good point actually that Da Costa raises there. Of course, Mortara was out after Da Costa, so Da Costa sat on the garage all the while. He's losing temperature in the core surface of the tyres. No tyre warmers in Formula E, just to remind you. So it does make a very, very big difference. And clearly for Mortara, he was just in the better operating window, and especially had more grip going down in towards that first braking zone in particular.
I don't think it was the weaving that gave him the advantage. I think it was control systems, the car and the driver.
Well, for Edo, he'll be delighted with that one. A 4th pole position of season 12. 39 years of age he is, and just seems to keep getting better and better. Surely that win will be coming before the season. There are 3 races left to run in 2026, and I think he'll be disappointed if he doesn't achieve that accolade. He's got the best opportunity he's had in a little while. Last time we saw him on pole position was back in Berlin on the Saturday.
Yeah, but this circuit is so difficult to overtake, Tom, and you've got 2 attack modes today, no pit boost race. I think this is a great opportunity for the team and Edo to get their first win together.
Well, let's see how that will work out. 33 laps scheduled for the E-Prix here tonight, but there is a possibility of some adverse weather that could be on the way further still as well. We had a monumental downpour in the early stages of the afternoon, and if that rears its head again, like we sort of flirted with yesterday in the race, there is a possibility that everything could be completely turned on its head. If we look at the city of Tokyo then, let's go down and catch up with Eduardo Mortara. Pole position number 4 for the Swiss driver. An amazing job from him in the Mahindra, and surely he's going to be absolutely delighted with that one. A great opportunity, as we said, for him to try and challenge for that victory, and we'll see how that is going to go down for him. Started on the front row of the race here yesterday, just to remind you there as well. Ultimately, he was quite disappointed with how it worked out. P5 over the timing line for the Mahindra driver. And as I say, we'll be hearing from him in the not too distant future as we look at the fans watching on. We also just saw briefly Antonio Felix da Costa walking away, and we know he was a little bit disappointed with things and said that the tyres just weren't right up in the window where he needed to be, and wonders if that was down to the fact that his semi-final was run earlier than the one where Mortara was out a few moments before. But still the front row of the grid for the Jaguar man.
68-1. Last week.
Let's get a word with your pole sitter tonight, Edo Mortara, for race number 2 here under the lights in Tokyo. This must have been tricky. Conditions changing the entire time. How did you manage it?
Yeah, it was a very difficult conditions. Them conditions we didn't know before starting actually the group phase, how dry and how wet the different zones on the circuit will be. and you kind of have to discover everything because we didn't have any free practice this morning. It was cancelled because of thunderstorms. But in the end we managed a great quali, and I'm very happy with this pole position. It feels also a little bit like a revenge from yesterday. We lost it yesterday in final against Jake, but today I didn't make any mistake, and so very happy with that.
Yeah, I was going to say you're one spot better today. That has to feel good. But what made the difference for you?
I was driving this entire weekend with a lot of confidence. The team gave me a fantastic car. And for me, I was able actually to drive quite consistently close to the limit. Yesterday, unfortunately, I drove slightly over the limit, like in one turn, and that made us lose quite a bit of time. But today, I must say that even if the conditions were quite tricky, we managed to do the kind of like the perfect lap, so I'm very happy.
He will lead the field to green. And now to present the Julius Baer Pole Position Award, please welcome Julia Palais, Vice President of Sustainability at Formula E.
Another superb job from Eduardo Mortara. Says he's been driving with a lot of confidence, and that was evidenced with the performance that we saw out on track here this afternoon. His 7th career pole in Formula E, 4 of which have come this season. You can see the emotion and the outpouring there from Mahindra. Now 3 points, closed the gap down to 10 to Andretti in the team's championship standings. And a great chance for them to challenge for their 2nd win of the season. They've only incidentally recently started testing for the Gen 4 era as well, one of the, in fact, the last factory team to do that, so hopefully they'll be able to continue the strong performances next year. But let's go down and catch up with Da Costa, who lines up P2.
Well, we had 2 drivers that wanted to come back with a vengeance and do better, and they just did that. You were 3rd yesterday starting. 1 spot better today. I asked Seto, what made the difference, but what made the difference for you in this qualifying run?
It was tricky with the track drying throughout the whole session, and especially turn 1, it never really dried out. And to be fair, I think I threw my lap away there already. The rest of the lap is pretty solid. A couple of things here and there, but I'm sure everyone kind of has that. So just little things that as a team we can do better. It's also tricky because in these conditions you want temperature in the tires, and Edo obviously had his final duel before, so his semi-final duel before the final a lot later, not a lot but a bit later than me, and had a bit more temp in the tire. And I mean, not taking anything away from the guy who's been flying this weekend. He beat me yesterday, beat me today, so congrats to him and his team. I'm just a little bit frustrated because it's been a lot of P2s and P3s this year, and I'm yet to be on pole. So I thought today, with a little miracle, we could do it, and unfortunately not. So still London to try and get it done.
You touched on it. Conditions were tricky all day long. They'll be tricky tonight as well, under the lights right here on the streets of Tokyo. So what do you anticipate? Yeah,
I mean, we're hearing a lot of rain coming. So to be fair, being where we are now, that's probably the best place to be. When the rain comes, chaos comes, visibility is reduced. So I can't really, happy to be where we are to tackle those tricky conditions coming. But to be fair, we've seen tricky conditions. They're meant to come here and there, and then sometimes they never show up. So we'll be ready for a wet race, ready for a dry race, and just try and avenge a little bit yesterday's day.
A bittersweet 2nd place for him, but nonetheless, he'll be on the front row. That's Antonio Felix Da Costa.
Dak back on the front row.
been a cat in another word. I escaped so many moments in this session. It's crazy, it's just crazy.
Yeah, we could have just put them in the cover and not signed it to the temp, but I think Mortara was actually trying to call. No, I'm sure he was trying to call, but we could have got a bit more advanced. And you were 1.21.
It's extremely competitive, very tough to put it all together when it matters, and if you don't, then you're sure it's not going to be enough to progress into the duels and be starting in front. But I think we can be fairly pleased with today's qualifying session. Starting P5 is solid, and yeah, I think all we can do and ask for is put ourselves in a position to have a chance at scoring points. So yeah, I think we did that.
Yeah, tricky. Ultimately, we were the first car to get the checkered flag on a drying track, so yeah, we did the best of a bad situation. I think the car was pretty good, but when the track's drying up 8-9 tenths a lap and you're the first car to get it, you're never going to make it. So yeah, slightly mismanaged, but ultimately it's one of those things.
I'm feeling pretty good. It was good to make it into the duels. Unfortunately, we were out a little bit earlier than we would have liked. Just made a mistake at turn 1, and I think even the rest of the lap wasn't super strong anyway. But yeah, after the first corner, it was pretty much done. But yeah, good to make it through. Yesterday, that's where we lacked. So yeah, I'll probably be starting probably P8, I guess. But we can race from there.
I mean, obviously difficult conditions after FP3. You could see out there, especially in turn 1, all of the drivers just getting a feel for the track, and it was sort of changing throughout the session. But no, very happy initially to get both cars through to the duels. That was super important. And then, unfortunately for Mitch, I think that turn 1 again just caught him out. Similar for Antonio on that last lap. But to start P2, P7, that's a good position.
Yeah, first of all, like in qualifying was very tricky because we had a lot to prepare in terms of car setup, setting in the car, tire pressure, so it was a bit stressful. And yeah, everything went pretty good. Made it to the duels, and honestly, like I was very happy with my lap in the duel. I said like no regret because I gave everything, and I thought I would get dark because my lap honestly from the inside felt so good. But yeah, it was just not enough. We are struggling a little bit since the beginning of the weekend in terms of pace. So yeah, fortunately I didn't make it through to another stage, but I mean I take it, it's a good starting position. And as we saw yesterday, and as we know in Formula E, everything can happen, so already to start at the front of the pack is a good thing.
I heard a noise from the car when I left the garage from the rear, so obviously we changed the parts which were obviously damaged from the incident yesterday, but feels like there's something on the rear, maybe on the gearbox, maybe on the differential, but sounded weird.
We did a few setup changes for the race yesterday and it looked positive. We kept them for today, and obviously it was a bit tricky with the track condition, to be honest, but I think the team absolutely gave me a good car today, and to have 2 good qualifyings in a row, obviously super happy for that, and yeah, it's another good starting position for the race, so hopefully we can capitalise on it this time.
You heard Dan Tickton frustrated on the radio, yeah. Yeah, I was just a little bit frustrated because turn 1 we had a similar situation the other day where it was just wet at turn 1, and obviously with the software and the systems you need an offset for all the slips and everything for that corner, and with the paint and everything that's there with the parking, I don't know, the way our systems are, it seems no matter what we do we were struggling there the whole time. So if I brake early, if I over demand, if I under demand, I seem to get more or less the same results. So yeah, that was very frustrating. I certainly lost some time there. The lap itself wasn't the best from me. I lost a bit of time in turn 6, 7 and 8. Wasn't bad, but you know, half a tenth to a tenth, I think I should have done better that lap. So yeah, I think it would have been tough to beat him. Mortara is very quick in that car. So, but yeah, P3 to start the race is very good, and hopefully build on a very positive day yesterday. And just want to say thank you to everyone who's supported me and all the fans here. It's been a great weekend so far.
Oliver Rowland with us. Oliver, we heard your frustrations on the radio as well as the mistake on track. Tell me about your run.
Yeah, not much to say. Not really much to say.
Where's your mentality at going forward to tonight?
Well, we're trying to do the best race we can as usual and see if we can score some points.
Thank you.
Great job.
I loved it. It was so good to watch. So good, là.
Tu l'as pas fait à moitié sur la finale.
Mais
bah si ton temps était meilleur encore et il a pas c'est vraiment rien. Under control, j'adore.
Under control, non.
Ah,
c'était full commitment.
C'est bon ça. Mais le full commitment ça peut être under control, non?
Bah hier c'était pas tout.
Si, c'est cool.
C'est cool.
Do you want me to send something down? Oh no, I'll figure it out. Yeah. Yeah. Here, don't worry.
Sorry, I'll get the next.
Good job.
Hold on, mate. Hold on.
Oh, amazing.
Allez, on s'en fiche, t'es en folle. Bravo.
C'est un peu dégueulasse, mais bon, enfin bref, mais j'aime changer. Thank you.
On a des pictures.
Je suis chaud. Ah, bravo, my friend.
Hello, mate.
Merci.
I appreciate you not using the curve.
Yeah, I was thinking of you. On avait dit quoi ce matin? Vous avez quoi, toi? Vous avez quoi, toi?
Thunderstorms again.
It kind of went mountainous yesterday.